Hello, and welcome back to the VictoriousWool podcast. I'm Victoria. I'm a hand knit pattern designer living in the Pacific Northwest, and this is my podcast where I come on and talk about what I'm making, what I'm designing, new patterns that are coming out, and generally how I'm feeling about knitting. Sometimes the weather, if we're having something annoying and extreme, and other little things about my making life. This is episode 45. It is January 9th, I believe, 2023. And I have 2 finished objects and 2 whips to show you. And that's kind of it, because I don't have a lot going on right now. I've really cleared the slate, and I'm contemplating what I want to do next. If I want to do more designs than my own personal knitting, or if I want to do something new that I've never learned, like learn a new technique or something. I just don't know. And I for the first time, I feel like in a long time, maybe I felt this way when I first started knitting and making things, but it just sort of is like, I just don't know which direction to go in. So it's both simultaneously really exciting, and I did a lot of work to get here, but I also feel like really insecure about it. So let's get into what I finished making. I finished Halibut by Caitlyn Hunter, and this beautiful color work pullover is, dare I say, perfect. It's the best color work, the most even and smooth color work that I've ever done. It blocked so beautifully. Let me try it on. Smells good. I think I made the size 2, but my gauge was a little smaller. If you've watched my episodes before, you know that I'm big about gauge, but I also often knit outside of a pattern's gauge because I know how to make the modifications to make that work for me. So yeah, it's nice and has a lot of ease in the yoke, which I don't always prefer, but I do enjoy it. Sometimes I think it can get probably a little too big, but it's hard to put it under your coat, I guess, because all this gets wadded up when your coat is a little bit shorter in depth than your sweater, but I really like it. And I stretched the collar out a lot. When I was trying it on before I blocked it, it was like the whole turtleneck was here, and that's not how the designer's wearing it, so I really stretched it out, and I think it's really nice. I like that a lot, actually. And then sleeve length was like a bit of a journey because I have really long arms, and I know actually that bending your elbow actually shortens your sleeve. So I try to keep that into consideration, make the sleeve longer from the get-go, but then also because I stretched the neck open so much, the color work fell on my shoulders differently, sweater hangs differently, so I knew that it would make the sleeves longer on my wrists and stuff. And then, so I did the sleeves before I finished the body, and then I tried it on, and I was like trying to open it up and guess where the sleeves were going to fall, and I thought, you know what, I think they're probably a little too short. So I knit them a little longer, probably like 3 more inches longer. And then when I blocked it, I thought, oh no, they're too long. But yesterday I wore it to farmer's market, where I work outside every Sunday in the winter. I wear a lot of sweaters, and moved a lot, and now they're perfect. So I think it just got, it just settled in. And I even thought that like the sleeves were a little bit wide right here at first, because this bit when I first tried it on was more like up here, and now it's pretty much at my elbow. And so I'm like, oh no, well, actually too wide, because I knit 3 sleeves. I knit one that was too small, I thought, and then I knit these 2, and I thought, oh no, maybe I should have done the original sleeve. But actually no, I think because I wore a sweater underneath it yesterday, I think it's perfect. Yeah, so it's a good length. Yeah, so it worked out really well. I did stretch it horizontally a little bit too. Blocking is like blocking is like magic. It doesn't work for every type of wool. It doesn't give you, and what I mean by that is, I think blocking generally, you could say 99% of the time makes knits better, but not every wool is really bloomy and malleable to getting wet and changing shape and stuff. So there's just some yarns that either you have experience with already, or you kind of get used to you can kind of tell by like handling them whether or not they're gonna expand or not. And I have knit with Kelbourne's Woolen Scout a lot. I really like this yarn. It's really beautiful, very soft to knit with, makes beautiful garments, beautiful color work. I think this is my 3rd color work project with it. And I can't think if I've made anything else. I know I've sat here and thought about before, like, what have I made with Scout? And I can think of 2 other things right now, and that may actually only be, I made a pair of mittens called the Camper Mitten that has like a colorwork motif on the back of the hand, and I made a Mobius cowl that was all colorwork called the Eagle Eye. But I don't think I've made anything else with it. Anyways, both those projects are great. I love the cowl a lot. I don't wear the mittens quite so much because it's not that cold here enough to wear like a full-on mitten when you're going outside, because you know it's a little unpractical. But if it's super cold, that makes sense. And I think I also just forgot that I had them, which is, I guess, a problem I could talk about in a little bit, having too many knits. But yeah, it's really nice. And it was something, I think I started it early 2022, maybe in April. I'm not exactly sure when the pattern came out. I think I bought yarn for it right away, but I got started and then it sat around. I didn't work on it for a really long time. So it's my oldest whip, and I have like the 2 whips I have were cast on last month, so I have nothing old. And that's one of the major accomplishments from 2018 onward, when I whittled all my whips down to 13, and then I spent a couple years finishing those 13 while still casting on new things. And I think it was either 2021 or 2020, I can't remember which, when I totally completed that magic 13 and was only working on new stuff. And now I'm like really only working on new stuff. So it is this, when I said that I'm open in a way I've never really been before in my knitting. That's like uncharted territory for me to have projects that are so fresh. So this is the last one that I had for a while. And I think psychologically, when you have a lot of projects, or when I have a lot of projects to get through, it's sort of like this goal, this thing you're pushing yourself towards. And then now that I'm here, it just sort of feels like, what do I do? And it's not unsatisfying, because I know how hard it was, and I know how rare it is to have something like this, to have so much open space for the next project or the next like learning experience. And a lot of knitters are just bogged down by their projects and stuff. But I just don't have those impulses anymore to cast on things all the time. There's this friend I have at farmer's market who also knits, and she usually knits 1 or 2 things at a time, mostly 1 at a time. And she's a farmer, she's busy. And I said to her, I think in the beginning of December, like, I have like 5 things I need to cast on right now. And I like kind of sighed, and she said, oh, it's the worst. So she says, it's the worst part. And I looked at her and I thought, no one has this conversation. Like, no knitters feel this way. All knitters feel like they just want to cast on all the time. And so I'm just very aware that it's unusual to feel that way and unusual to be in this position. I'm not saying it's really great either. It's a little confusing, but it's very different. So there's a lot of things I could cast on. I have lots of yarn. I have lots of projects that I bought yarn for. I had lots of ideas. It just sort of is, there's nothing that's like absolutely pulling me. And so I'm just taking a moment, I guess, or however long it's going to be, a week, 2 days, 2 weeks, or whatever it is, to just really like feel what that feels like before I dive into the next thing. And the 2 projects that I have are really lovely, and they're going pretty quickly because there's nothing else in the way. but I do sort of feel like I'm just making stuff and then going on to the next thing and the next thing. I just like feel a little bit purposeless, I guess, because I've just completed this huge goal. So anyways, there's a little bit of a chat before I show you the next things I finished. The pattern I have coming out this month is Knitter's Academia. Here's the original pair. And I did decide on the date before I started recording. I'm going to release them on January 19th, which is from now, my recording time, it's about a week and a half. So I'll try to get this up obviously this week. It's in pre-order right now. So you can go onto Ravelry.com and you can pre-order it, which means that on the 19th, a Ravelry update will come into your inbox with the full pattern. The PDF that you can download right now just tells you it's a pre-order, gives you the details page so you can buy yarn and plan your project, but it doesn't have the full pattern in it yet because I just need a few more weeks to edit the pattern and get my marketing stuff ready. I had a lot of really great testers. So many people knit this sock in so many different colors. That was really fun to see, and I need to organize all the feedback I got and apply the last minute edits. I did a tutorial on starting the heel flap, which isn't hard at all. I just got a question that I felt like I could answer really clearly if there was a tutorial. So this pattern is a simple sock pattern. It's been difficult to know like what to call it because easy implies that you know that I'm going to walk you through every step of knitting sock, and it's not a beginner sock pattern. It's just a simple sock pattern with lots of tips. If you haven't knit socks before, that you could do it. I did have one tester who'd never knit a sock before and she did great. But not everybody follows directions from written text very well. Lots of people are really visual. So I got different feedback that the amount of details I gave and the amount of instruction I gave was great. I had people tell me it was too much, that it was too wordy. So like everybody's experiences are different. And so I'm wanting to give as much help that I can without it being a full-on tutorial of every step with every needle type, because people knit socks with different needles. They use DPNs, they use magic loop, which is a really long circular needle. If you don't know what that is, people use 2 circulars at a time, which is a similar thing to magic loop. Then they use a very, very small circular needle, 9-inch circular, which is what I use. Is there any more? Is it just those 4? I think it's just those 4. And then I guess you could count flexi tips where a double point needle has a flexible bit, but it's pretty much the same as a double point needle. So depending on like new knitters come into knitting, what do they get? How are they taught, or what needles are they given to do circumference knitting? I don't know what the trend is right now. Some people love DPN, some people don't. Some people love magic loop, some people don't. I got really into magic loop when I was first knitting, I don't know, maybe a couple years in, and I thought, oh wow, you can just buy a 40-inch cord knitting needle and you can use that to make any size circumference. And so I got like every needle size in a 40-inch, and then I like overdid it. I could do everything with magic loop all the time. I experience a lot of laddering when I magic loop, so I kind of like I really got over it. I did the whole 2 socks at a time thing on magic loop. It was really obsessive. Everything was magic loop. And then I just knit so much that I was like, you know what? This isn't the experience I want to be having. I'm spending way too much time moving my needles around. I just need an interchangeable needle set for fixed circular. And I have all those little tiny 9-inch circulars. I have a set that gives me 12-inch circular, 10-inch circulars. I just went that route and I've been so much happier. So it's hard to write a sock pattern that you want to help newer knitters or newer sock knitters without addressing needle type. And I just kind of had to do the best I can with tips and stuff. So the pattern does have tutorials, other people's tutorials for how to knit socks in all 4 needle methods. And I wrote the pattern to be universal, so there aren't any directions for needle type, but that doesn't mean, what that means is that the person knitting the sock needs to know enough about the needle type they're using, the needle method they're using, to understand the instructions. So if you're new to DPNs and you're knitting the sock pattern, you may have a moment of going like, wait, I don't know, because it's the orientation of where everything is. And with Magic Loop, it's totally different. Yeah, it's a little just complicated, at least for me and my perception of it. Doesn't mean it actually is. So there's a few things I need to tweak with it, add that tutorial, but it's a very simple sock pattern. The features are a 2x2 rib cuff, because you're going top down in this sock pattern, and then you start doing the striping with your contrasting color. It's super fun to mix different colors. You could use a different color for each contrasting stripe if you want. You don't have to do 5 stripes on the leg like I did. I know I had one tester who only did a couple. She made a little shorty pair. I really like the look of wearing the sock sort of like rumpled on the leg, so you get this really cute slouchy effect with the stripes. Then the heel flap is made with a contrasting color. It's probably my favorite part. Traditional heel flap and gusset, and then you continue striping. When you do the gusset decreases, get back to the toe, and then the toe is rounded. It's not a wedge toe, it's a round toe, which doesn't, wedge toes maybe fit some people's feet better. So if you don't want a round toe, you can just sub out a wedge toe or some other kind of toe. But I really like the round one because I just think it makes the end of my feet look really cute, as opposed to the wedge toe, which like makes my toes look really angular, and I prefer a cute toe. Yeah, those are the details. Persimmon heather and Prussian heather, and then I used Garnet heather and Prussian heather for the second pair. They're Knitters Academia because of the stripes. I made them look very collegiate, and yeah, I think the red pair is actually my favorite. And then in December, this is the finished object part of this. I did a Christmas pair, and I just finished them at the end of the first week of January, so I was a little late, but I started off with the green, and I haven't blocked these yet, so it's interesting to tell the different, like, this one's a little stiff still, and these are just nice and drapey. So yeah, I need to block these and weave on all the ends. I had one tester be like, there's a lot of ends, and I'm like, oh yeah, anytime you stripe, you're gonna have a lot of ends. And just put some fun Netflix on and weave in for an hour or something, probably, maybe less. This is Dill heather with Firecracker, and all these yarns are the KnitPicks Stroll Tweed, which is a sock yarn, very inexpensive sock yarn. They make it in a lot of beautiful colors. So I did this one. And then I like it, but it's very like, what's it? Vintage Christmas, right? It's like not a forest green and a deep red. And I was like, I don't want to knit another one. So I switched and did the red as the main color and the Dill heather as the contrast color, which I love. And now I have a like fun mix match Christmas pair that's super cute. It's hard to put this entire sock on the camera because it's just so big. Yeah, the pattern comes in, I think I did 7 sizes, and I did so many because I'm trying to be more size inclusive in the knitting community, and I know that there are a lot of women. It's written for women. Men can probably wear it. A lot of men could probably wear it too. Like the smallest size is probably teenager or kiddo, depending on how big your children and your teenagers' feet are. But I wanted to include those smaller sizes because it's not that big. That's not that much more work for me to grade a little bit more size, a few more sizes. And there are a lot of really small feeted people out there, and I didn't want to exclude them. And those folks have to go knit a child's sock or something, you know, so I wanted to include them. And then I think I went all the way up to I either went up to a 10-inch ankle circumference or a 10 and a half, I can't remember. But that's a pretty big foot. So I could have gone up one more, but then I thought, well, but it was like, yeah, is there really, I know there's a lot of really small humans, but is there that many people that would need that big a size? I don't know. So that was my compromise. But yeah, I think I went from 6-inch circumference, ankle and foot circumference, all the way up to a 10 or 10 and a half. So it's a pretty big spread. And the sizes are fairly close together. So the thing that I say in the pattern is every sock yarn and pattern that you make, or sock yarn and needle together that you use, like if you use a size 1 or use a size 2 and you try a different sock yarn, you're going to get a slightly different result because all sock yarns are different. Fingering weight or sock weight, they're not equal. They're not equal in density or in thickness, even though they're fingering weight yarns. So yeah, and even if you were to compare a sock yarn to a regular fingering weight yarn, something without nylon, you're going to get a really different result. It won't wear as well without nylon, but you're going to get a very different result than if you use a yarn that has some nylon in it. So I recommend to people that they knit a cuff and a couple inches of the sock as a swatch, and then they try to get it over their foot to see whether or not it's going to work for them, because knitting a sock based on your measurements or based on what you usually use with a sock yarn. I always knit it I always cast on 64 stitches with a size 1. That won't give you perfect fitting socks. So their sizes are close enough together that it's possible most people could fit into 1 or 2 different sizes. And I think my testers had a little bit of that. They all had to choose a size before they did the test, so that it's not as if they could come to the pattern and say, okay, well, I'm this size and this, my foot is this size and this sock size is this and this yarn, and they can make that choice. And if it doesn't work, they can, rip out and pick a different size. But that's my hope for people, is that they can experiment a little bit if they're not sure which size to choose, and they'll get something ultimately that fits them really well. The reason why I knit 3 pairs of these is because they fit really well. It's nice to have multiple samples when you do release a pattern, but they fit really well. This is why I wrote this pattern, because I have knit it before. I combined the things about socks that I really like and have knit a non-striped version, I think a couple years ago, and someone asked me if I had a pattern for that. And I thought, well, I would love to offer a simple sock pattern that fits me really well, and that it's nice to have a staple sock pattern. But how do I make it my own? And then that's when I came up with the stripe idea, and played around with that for a lot of last year before I got to this. So that's why this came about, because they fit really well, and there's a lot of space to play around if your yarns are different. And I probably will make those again with a different yarn, and I'm going to have to see if I need to change my size. I knit the 5th size. I could probably fit in the 4th size, but then they would be a lot tighter, and maybe I could wear them in shoes. These are a little bit relaxed for me, which is what I prefer, because I don't wear my socks in my boots or shoes. I wear them primarily at home. What else was going to say? I have a version of these. If you've been watching my podcast for, all of last year, I did make a black and white pair to start out, and I knit, I think I did size 0 with 72 stitches cast on, and they were too small. So I went up to a 1, I think, and maybe I cast some more stitches. Maybe I did a 64 on a 0. because I was trying to go for a like denser fabric because that's more durable. And so, yeah, that didn't work out because it didn't fit. So it's sort of like you got to find the right spot between it fitting comfortably, fitting how you want it to fit, and also being durable. So I don't think I'll ever knit socks on anything bigger than a 1 now, but I'm not that tight of a knitter, so maybe a tighter knitter could use a 2. It all depends. So I encourage experimentation for sure. Finding the right fit and the right gauge with needle size and certain yarn. Because as soon as you, like I said, as soon as you switch to a different yarn, that's not going to be exactly the same anymore. So I hope this pattern helps you explore in more socks. And I have a lot of KnitPicks Stroll Tweed in a lot of colors, and so I will definitely make it again. I just can't make any more right now because I made, I think in a 4 or 5 month period, I made 3 pairs, and so I'm a little bit burnt out on I'm burnt out on having to finish another pair. I love them. They're wonderful. They're really fun to make. I just made them all with this like pressure to like, oh, you got to finish this sock. You got to finish. And I'm like, no more, no pressure, and no more. Those are my 2 finished objects. Finished this on December 30th, and I finished these January 6th. So old projects are done. Now I have 2 whips. They are very similar. I did not intend that to be the case, but it just turned out that way. It may be why I'm a little bit listless, because they're not like that interesting. They're very simple, which maybe in another perspective they're perfect for me right now. I cast on the Gentle Lopi by Melody Hoffmann, Bee Mandarines. Here it is. I'm using Plotulopi in I'll have to write the number down. I don't remember right off the bat. There's a number coming to mind, but I don't know if it's right, and I don't want to say the wrong one. But this is like a tawny brown. It might even be a oatmeal, but it's really too brown to me to properly be oatmeal. It's got yarn overs on the raglan, top down seamless raglan. And I think there's a braid that's going to come and fill the holes. I'm pretty sure. This is a big sweater. This is like coming to the top of your knees kind of sweater. And I have a lot of plates of Plotulopi to use. And I think I'm making size 1, size 2. There's only 4 because it's pretty big. It is pretty big. It's a very much like almost a dress, definitely a tunic, definitely like oversized. And it was really cold in December. I knew it wouldn't stay that cold, but I thought this is the kind of motivation I need to cast on something that's super woolly. So even if I don't get to wear it this year that much, or like this winter season that much, I'll have it for next time. So that was my hesitancy in doing it right now. But I just kept seeing it on Instagram. And when you keep seeing something and you just get sort of, that's what marketing is. You just get shown it enough times that you're like, okay, really, I want that. I do want that. Yeah. And I'm not unhappy with my decision to cast it on or to work with this yarn again. I love it so much. Yeah, top down seamless raglan with yarn overs on the raglan. And then I finally cast on the Camp Pullover by Amy Christoffers, who is Savory Knitting. And it also is a top down seamless raglan with yarn overs at the raglan. Very different yarn. This is 50% wool, 50% alpaca from Berroco, their ultra alpaca yarn. And it's got this really cool raglan detail. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be really different. This one I think is going to be more like hip length, and it's going really, really fast because I know it looks small, but don't worry. I put it on a cable and pulled it out, and it's definitely going to fit me. And this yarn blooms nicely. So if I want, like with this, if I want to expand it, I can. What was I going to say? Oh, it's going to have a really nice drape to it. Which the Camp Pullover was a summer cardigan, we made with a cotton blend. So it looks like, and I know that yarn from experience, it looks like it has a lot of drape to it. So this is a good alternative. I love this yarn. This is Mahogany Mix is the colorway, and I have used it to knit my farmhouse shawl, my cabin 4, which I probably haven't shown on here because I don't think I was recording podcasts at that time, but it's really, really beautiful. It's one of my favorite pieces, and I realized it's really the yarn that I love so much, and I need to knit with it more. So I did get some Berroco Alpaca to knit another fjord shawl, the pattern that I released in the fall, but I'm not going to cast that on right now because it would be something I would feel like I need to finish for work, and yeah, I think I should do other things, other experimental things for work. So the last thing I want to talk about, I wrote a little note on my list of topics to share, is that I realized something really important about myself when I am really, really busy and I finally get a break and I have all these things I wanted to do with my time off. What happens is I just sit a lot and I can't do anything. I mentally want to do things. I want to do and knit this project or read this book, or I want to do this puzzle, and I just sit because my body needs rest, but it's not been told yet. I haven't gotten the signals that it's okay to relax. So I'm actually just tense doing nothing. And I realized what I need to do is either exercise to signal to my body that stress cycle is over, and to work my body in a way where it then can relax, or I just need to keep working. So one or the other, because sitting around and feeling frustrated during my time that's supposed to be for me is really annoying. And that's just sort of how it's been, I think, for a really long time. And I finally got that together. I have known that that's a thing, and I've talked to people about it. Like, I just can't be okay with doing nothing all of a sudden. And I realized it's because my body doesn't know yet that it's okay to relax. And I'm actually sitting here tense, and that I can do something about that. So I wanted to share that because I know it's really relatable. And I know a lot of people can't relax. They can't wind down without maybe a glass of wine would do it, beer with friends or something like that would probably get the body to like chill. But I don't really think that's also the problem of feeling like this feeling we need to work all the time. And I think I realized, that's what that is. And I've been doing a really good job because I've been exercising every day, I think since Christmas Day, to just tell my body it's time now. You can relax now. And hopefully in the future, if I'm sitting able to rest and I realize that I'm tense, it's probably because I need to do something else, whether it be exercise or continuing to work is also a perfectly good option. But that whole idea of like leisure time doesn't happen without some like serious like, okay, body, you can stop. So I just wanted to share that. Feel free to comment below about whether or not you experience something like that and what you do to get yourself to like actually be at peace when you're resting. That's my stuff for this week. I will release the pattern, my sock pattern, January 19th, so you can look for it then, or you can go right now and pre-order it so your order is in and you'll get the pattern on that day. I really appreciate pre-orders because I'm not doing release day discounts anymore. I think they undervalue my product, and I don't want to undervalue it. No one else is going to value it as high as me. So if I'm undervaluing it, everybody else will. So I'm not doing that anymore. So there's not this like big boost on release day, but pre-orders really help because as soon as you see it, you can get it, and then I make some sales. So I really appreciate that. I also forgot, I keep forgetting to talk about this on Instagram too, is that right before the end of the year, I think the day after Christmas, I put up a video on Instagram telling everybody that I was really close to meeting my sales goal for 2022 and would everybody help me out and order a pattern before the end of the year. And they did. People showed up wonderfully and I did make my goal. So I'm really, really happy about that. And it made me think about what I want to do for this year. And I'm just really appreciative and grateful. So thank you so much if you ordered a pattern in the last week of December. And I hope that you're knitting on something really lovely and it's giving you a lot of joy in this difficult month of January. I'll see you next time.